Let's go to a caller in Florida first. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn, you're on the air worldwide.
Alex, first-time caller, long-time listener. I want to bring to your attention, I'm sure you've seen the things on the currency, the 10, the 50, and the $100 bill. All three of them have some kind of false flag on them. This has been pointed out by a man named Jonathan Kleck. I highly encourage people to check out his videos. On the 10, it appears that there's a tsunami hitting a coastal city. I believe this to be Miami. It's something you can research. There's something called Miami is the last point in the pentagram that you can check out on YouTube. Number 2 is the 50, which appears to be Hoover Dam being hit. And the other one is the 100, the new 100, which has a picture of New York City, it appears, being hit by a tsunami. Now, with all three, one of the things that I don't know if you've ever thought about, the idea that the enemy likes to broadcast what they're about to do. And in turn, they can, it's like a firefighter setting a fire. They set the fire, come in and look like the hero. What if all three of these false flags were thwarted somehow? And this was an attempt to get us to go along with the New World Order, go along with all the security measures that we have in place, and make perhaps the president look like the hero.
Well, listen, I appreciate your call. That's pretty esoteric for the first call out of the gate. So let me just briefly, for new listeners, basically break down what you're talking about. I know that the global elites are into numerology. They are obsessed with hiding what they're going to do in plain view. If you look at some of the new money that came out right before 9/11, it looks just like the World Trade Center towers falling. If you look at some of the new money that's come out, it looks just like Hoover Dam. It looks like tsunamis. It looks like the Pentagon being hit. It is extremely scary. And then you realize that the old money that we had since 1913 or so had all sorts of hidden images and keys and owls and skeletons and pentagrams, and that a lot of the engravers, the globalists believe money has power because it passes between hands. It's a symbol of their power. And for really hundreds of years, paper money has had all sorts of secret symbols on it. So undoubtedly there's something to that. But anyone can then look at the new money and try to guess what the next target is. If you want to talk about tsunami bombs, it's been in the London Telegraph, it's been in the London Guardian, it's been in the Washington Post back in the mid-90s, and then again just a few years ago. You can type in U.S. government plans tsunami bombs and develop hydrogen bombs on key fault lines and things that would cause that to happen. Does that mean that most earthquakes are government-made? No. There's always been earthquakes. There's always been volcanoes. There's always been meteorites hitting the earth. And so I just really don't go there a lot because you can't prove it one way or the other. I could do YouTube videos about this, and they get millions of views, and people are really into all this, and I've studied it. I've looked at it. There's some real validity to it. But it's just something I can't prove. What I can prove is that our president, starting this year, ordered the Border Patrol to stand down. Only 17% of the people coming across are youth, under 18. They are pouring in. The border is wide open. And the president is inviting them in, and the governor of California, Jerry Brown, with the Mexican president yesterday, I'm going to play the clip coming up. In fact, cue that up if you can. Said, hey, Mexicans, come on up here. That's crazy. Imagine if the French said, hey, Germans, anybody wants to come here, free welfare. Or imagine if Canada said, Americans, anybody that can come here, you get free welfare. Well, Canada's kind of done that now with anybody that can get there from the third world. So is the U.S., so is Europe, and it's collapsing. And the plan is get enough people in the country, give them driver's license, let them vote, who are totally dependent on the government and what the government wants, and it's checkmate. It's a diabolical plan. It's incredible. I can prove they ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. I can prove the IRS is persecuting people. I can prove our government funded al-Qaeda. I can prove that Don Salazar wrote an article about FEMA building emergency domes for during crisis all over the U.S. These are the models of the FEMA camp processing centers that were in the Emergency Centers Establishment Act bill. We should probably add that to it. FEMA building pricey domes for your safety, close quote. This is the government collapsing society, offering the solution more control. What happens? What happens when the dollar gets devalued further? What happens when they've shut off the power plants and moved all the jobs to China, which is already happening? Things are going to get worse and worse. Crime's going to get higher and higher. We're going to beg for a police state. The middle class is. And then it's going to double back, and the police state will then be used on anyone who is not a globalist, fellow traveler, socialist, communist. That's grassroots. The bankers are going to sit in Luxembourg, in Switzerland, in Grand Cayman, in the Cook Islands, laughing at us. The elite of the world are leaving Israel and leaving the United States. They're going to Switzerland. They're going to England. They're going to Scotland. They're going to Monte Carlo. They are going to Luxembourg. And they've all got giant yachts with helicopters and seaplanes on them. And they're ready to live at sea for years. Okay? I mean, quite frankly, I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. But that's the underground base of the future. Is island, highly armored, ultra-rich redoubts, former Greek islands, you name it, that the globalists have been buying for billions and setting up command bases. I mean, this is a war you're in. This is not a game. They're getting ready for the singularity. They're getting ready for the robots to basically displace the general public. They're getting ready for the bioweapons release. And if you're an FBI agent or a cop or a bureaucrat who thinks you're going to be part of the establishment and thinks you're going to make it through all this, you're crazy. Or if you're compartmentalized and think I'm nuts, boy, I wish I was crazy, because I'm not. I'm sharp. I'm on target. I'm on the inside. I've done 22 years of research. I know what I'm talking about. And anybody that doesn't listen to me or anybody that wants to laugh at what I talk about is an idiot. Why did Nero set fire to Rome? Because he liked to watch buildings burn. Why did Hitler do what he did? Same reason. Why did Mao kill 84 million people? Because he wanted to. Why did Ted Bundy grab teenage girls and torture the living daylights out of them? Because he liked it. And all of you out there that are naive and think the establishment's like you and wants to watch ESPN all day and act cool all day or ride your Harley around all day, I'm not against you wanting to ride your Harley. I get it. I'd like to go tailgate. I'd like to go ride Harleys around. I'm just trying to get something through your head, man. That isn't what life's all about on this planet in deep space, okay? If the Harley's 5% of what you do and your kids are 60% and being successful is 30%, you know, on and on and on, then you're healthy. But when you're 90% entertainment, 90% have fun, you don't exist to the elite. They see you as an animal just using up resources. In fact, the elite openly say you have to declare yourself sentient, declare yourself sovereign, declare yourself not their slave before you even get their respect. I have the Illuminati's respect. I have the New World Order's respect. You don't have their respect. You don't exist to them. You're an animal to them. You're cattle. Do you understand that? And you know what? You do act like cattle. But I will not play the game of feeding on you, because that comes right back on me and my soul and my family name. I will not curse my family. But let me tell you, I look at the evil, wicked, servile, narcissistic population and compare you to the technocrats. At least they know what they're doing. I'm going to shut up and go back to your calls. Who's up next from Canada? Marcello in Canada. We're talking about society. That's what you're calling in about. Thank you for calling in, brother.
Hey, it's an honor to speak to you, Alex. Yeah, I just wanted to know, because there's so much going on in the world right now. There's so much chaos. I want to talk to you about so much, but right now there's major current issues with our police department in Montreal, and they're on strike, and they actually.
Hey, but the good news is, you got Burger King moving up there to the corporate headquarters.
About that, get serious. That's the worst thing ever. But anyways, yeah. So what happened was the police department actually ransacked City Hall, and they started a fire outside because they're on strike right now. and like there hasn't been any really consequences. And every time like people decide to protest, they like we're just thrown in jail and slapped with fines. So like I totally don't agree with that. And
no, you're right though. In Spain and in Greece and in a bunch of other European countries the last few years, the police have been on strike and been rioting, and also in France, but not even because they had their pension funds being taken. They were smart enough to see the pension funds being taken from the other state and federal agencies and knew they were next, because they are always invariably next. But yeah, that's very hypocritical of the police to go out and attack peaceful demonstrators like I've seen them do in Canada with my own eyeballs. But then they're more than happy to go out and ransack things themselves. I saw that in the news.
I also want to know, like, because I tried to search Fast and Furious, because you always bring it up, but I can't find it. I only find the movie. What do you mean by that?
Okay, Fast and Furious, and I appreciate your call, was a program started in 2009. They gave press conferences, Big Sis and Holder, about how they were doing a gun tracking program. And then they got caught shipping the guns into Mexico, which was illegal. Then they said they didn't know anything. And then it came out, CBS News got the documents, the reporter published it, then she got in trouble, so she quit, where they said, we're going to do this to blame the Second Amendment. That memo was going out to ATF agents that were very upset. They're like, what are we doing shipping thousands of guns a month into Mexico to drug cartels? These are killing people. And they said, look, it justifies the means. We're going to use this to blame the Second Amendment for the violence. Of course, the truth is Mexico, the real drug cartels have full auto armored vehicles. Goldman Sachs, well, mainly Wachovia and Wells Fargo, if you look at the Bloomberg articles, they ship in the aircraft with the weapons on board, and then they ship out, because you want to make money both legs. The CIA brings American citizens down there for rendition to Mexico, to a Mexican base, and then they load the slaves going to death camps on those and fly them out. Of course, they also load the kids, the little kidnapped kids on those. If you're a new listener and don't believe me, just type in $378 billion laundered by Wells Fargo and Wachovia in a 2-year period. And that article came out 4 years ago. There was a bunch of articles about it. The headline was, Big Banks in Deal over laundering drug cartel money. But then you read the actual deal. There it is, how a big U.S. bank laundered billions for Mexico's murderous drug gangs. Yeah, that's the Guardian, but it's not as strong as Bloomberg report. The Bloomberg report goes off the actual federal deal, and it just shows how they run the aircraft and the logistics, and they got guys in suits and top corporate managers. Imagine, it's a $500 billion a year North American economy. There it is. Banks financing Mexico's gangs admitted in Wells Fargo deal. See, people always say that, hey, there's no planes coming into the hood. They're not laundering billions in the hood. Oh, that's true. No, it's done scientifically. U.S. military bases, C-130s by the hundreds landing per month, cocaine, heroin, and then little kids are put on and flown out on the special flights right to Saudi Arabia. And there's people waiting with pliers to rip their teeth out. But hey, you know I'm an extremist. You're all going to understand soon, won't you? Sorry the show's so scary. Reality's scary. Of course, 99% of the military didn't even know about it. DynCorp, Halliburton, it's come out. They're all involved in the child sex trade as well.
General, what do you think about the FBI saying that there's a terror alert on Monday about a potential Fort Hood situation?
The police are shoving people, shoving Alex, shoving the crowd.
Here we go, folks. I'm being assaulted.
Whether it's the radio show, the news websites, documentary films, or the nightly news, InfoWars is the tip of the spear.
Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and put more homeland security while sticking their hands down on the pants on the streets?
It's up to us to set brush fires in the minds of men and women everywhere. And that's what PrisonPlanet.tv is designed to do.
You watch the aside Assad regime is going to be blamed or accused of using chemical weapons against the so-called rebels.
What we see now is a war against reality. It's a war against the truth.
It's more vital than ever that supporters of freedom become members of PrisonPlanet.tv and share their membership with up to 11 friends and family. Visit InfoWarsNews.com today. Become a member, share your membership, and help take the InfoWar to the next level. If you're a new listener and you're going, what on earth is this guy talking about? I put on screen Bloomberg, we'll put it back on screen, a detailed 20-something page report with links to the government documents, banks financing Mexico drug gangs admitted in Wells Fargo deal. And that goes back to 2010, 4 years ago, June 28th. Now, I already knew this. I watched this in congressional hearings in 1997. I've watched congressional hearings in 2006 where they admitted that DynCorp and other major companies were caught running rings of kidnapped women and children worldwide. Why do you think you can walk into an Acorn building, famously, and say, I want to run child sex slaves through here? They're like, absolutely. Welcome to the team. Why do you think it's on Infowars.com? That sexual abuse of 1,400 children unreported due to racism fears in one town in England. It's because the basic Labor Party over there with the so-called minorities was running and trafficking with, you know, all these kids, and they don't want it coming out. And they use the minorities as the red light district for kids. And so I'm here covering all this, and it sounds completely insane. I have congressional hearings. I've played them probably 20 times here. Just type in Defense Secretary grilled on child kidnapping. And they admit in the hearing, yes, DynCorp got caught shipping thousands of kids out from one city alone in Serbia. And yes, they were given a fine. They were not allowed to bid in that sector for 1 year. That's a quote. So I'm trying to explain something to you. Don't be so naive anymore. Of course the government was involved bombing Oklahoma City, and it's all come out. Of course they'd do that. Of course they'd shoot black people up with syphilis and let them die of it over 48 years with Tuskegee. Not the whole government. Criminal mafias, eugenics, death cult mafias operating at different strata using national security secrecy to protect themselves and NSA spy grids to find out when good parts of agencies or white hats are about to bust them. Can you imagine what the evil forces were able to do since 1947 when basically the whole government went secret with unlimited money with the National Security Act? Can you imagine the blackmail of Congress that's going on? That's all come out now. The blackmail of Parliament in England, the blackmail in France, the blackmail in Germany. We have a criminal, kleptocratic, global elite of 6 banks owned by less than 20 families who control almost the whole world right now. And you might want to find out what their agenda is and what makes them tick, what their modus operandi is, or mode of operations, their MO. I'll tell you what it is. Go watch my free film online, End Game, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. The film sold 200,000 copies in stores and about 70,000 copies here. I think it's more than that. And guess what I did? It's free, free, free. You can still buy the DVD with the extras if you want to support us. But that's how I financed this operation in the past, was with those films. Then I came to the conclusion there won't even be a future if I even sell these things. So people take it for granted if it's free. Oh, well, he's just giving it to me free. Why do I care if 30 million people watched it online for free? Why do I care if he, sold hundreds of thousands of copies of it, now he's giving it away? I gave it away day one. It's always been free. I just want you to know the truth. I want you to see the globalists in the film, tell you what their plan is, so you understand how evil they are, so we can stop them. People ask, how do you have so much energy, Alex? Hey, let me tell you something. You know about this stuff, and you're normal, you're freaking out. People say, well, why are you still alive? Because I've already basically said everything. If they kill me, it turns me into a martyr, ladies and gentlemen. And there's also a lot of good people in the system that are cheering us on. It's a very small, evil group. But let's go to Tim in West Virginia. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Alex. The reported shooting of accidental shooting of a range instructor outside Las Vegas this morning. Supposedly a 9-year-old girl was firing a Uzi full auto. The recoil got away from her, and she accidentally shot the instructor.
Yeah, that's real popular in Vegas. They got a bunch of those places where you can go shoot full auto, and I just don't think it would be wise to give a child something like that because, yeah, I mean, it's like giving a man who's never shot a 12-gauge shotgun, and they think you lightly hold it. All you do is pull it into your shoulder, pull the trigger, but people that don't know, I mean, that's going to happen, though. Guns are one of the least dangerous things statistically out there. And so we shouldn't be blamed because somebody got killed and made a mistake. Go ahead.
God, Alex, wasn't this exactly the same thing that happened about 10 years ago? Is this a replay on the news, or is it an actual new event?
You know, I don't remember. Are you saying you remember this happening before?
Yes, sir, about 8 or 10 years ago. It was a child involved firing a full auto Uzi that accidentally shot the instructor from the recoil.
Well, stupidity does multiply itself, but it could be a staged event. And look, all we know is the official Sandy Hook story is a fraud. All we know is the official Aurora story is a fraud. It is a fraud. I don't want to go over the 2 hours of evidence, but anybody that looks at it knows that it is a fairy tale. We don't know exactly what's going on. We just know it's a fairy tale. But I'm not aware of we should look into that. Can somebody send it to showtips@infowars.com? Where do you remember hearing the story before?
It was on regular news and shortwave 8 or 10 years ago, maybe, perhaps. I don't have internet or anything, but I'll let you guys look into it. And thank you, sir. I appreciate you. First-time caller.
Well, thank you, brother. Yes, we have video of that. We're going to be playing it. You know, I spoke of this earlier. I think I should just play it now. Governor Jerry Brown to Mexican illegals, you're all welcome in California. He's welcoming anybody that wants to come in to free health care, have your baby for free, and welcoming you to everybody else's bank account. And welcoming you to be given a driver's license so you can then vote to take everybody's guns. Man, I tell you, this is, I mean, if these people were libertarians, it would still be a problem because it breaks the law, but literally being inducted onto welfare as a supplemental to their jobs. Incredible. Here's Jerry Brown.
It wasn't very long ago that the governor of California was outlawing driver's licenses for people who are undocumented from Mexico. That's not the law anymore.
See, there he
goes. If you got a car or a truck, it takes you 2 or 3 hours to get across. So we can change that. And we are going to work on a plan so that you can go from Tijuana or Mexico to California in 20 minutes. That's what I want to do.
Totally opening the border. With full respect, this is the end. And I want to explain when we come back. First, I'll go to calls. In fact, I'll do it at the start of the next hour. Start of the next hour, I'm going to get into existential envy, and I'm going to get into what this is really all about. I mean, I want to boil it down. It's North American Union. These decisions were made. The supercontinent, this is it. And it means destabilization. New story up on Infowars.com. VA training guide compares veterans to Oscar the Grouch. Internal materials give impression veterans are dangerous. Yeah, and the article goes on. We have all the public documents where under Obama, Homeland Security trains to fight number 1, returning veterans, number 2, veterans, number 3, libertarians, number 4, conservatives, number 5, constitutionalists, and number 6, Christians. That's official. Remember a few months ago, Fort Hood Manual says founding fathers would not be welcome in today's military. Troops told they'll be court-martialed if they join a evangelical church or the Tea Party. Fox News picked that up after we broke it. You know who gave it to us? They told me they don't even care. You know who gave us that information? Folks in Army Psychological Operations are so upset right now. So you can go too far with people. Our military, on average, are some of the best folks out there. It's just true. I mean, at least they live in the real world. They're not like the average people that don't face any danger and live in la-la land and have no idea what's happening. They're told George Washington is bad. Think that will come up? What are they fighting for if you don't have any freedom of association? This is so crazy, but that's coming up. The Department of Transportation proposes mandating cars, broadcast location, direction, and speed for, of course, taxation. That's CNS News. I told you that was coming because they were public about it 20 years ago. They said in the future, we're going to put boxes in all the cars and tax you by the mile. I remember even going on Coast to Coast AM about that, like in 2003, and people couldn't believe me. It's real. Let's go to your phone calls. I'm going to take a lot of them now. Tony, we're going to you first, then Jay, then Jim, then Matthew, then Michael, and others. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. Tony in Michigan, thanks for calling in. You're on the air.
Yeah, a pleasure to speak with you. Maybe you mentioned it already and I just missed it, but what were your thoughts on the Foley video? To me, it was obviously fake, but I just wondered what you thought about it.
The expert that advises the British government came out 3 days ago in the London Telegraph on Monday, and Watson was on the show and covered it with David Knight and said it is undoubtedly fake and that it's even been manipulated in the video. Not photoshopping, but it's been. I mean, look, they brought John Wayne back to pitch products. They've brought Elvis back. It's just like The Running Man, where they set up Ben Richards in that Stephen King novel that the film's based on. When he refuses to kill the crowd, they kill the crowd and blame him. The underwear bomber video was completely fake, where it shows him with a black hood over his head. This looked like it was shot by Steven Spielberg. It was so cinematic. But ISIS really does cut heads off. Now they're saying it's at least a year old. It could be real. They could have just taken it and souped it up. See, sometimes it's not that something's completely fake. It's that it's been doctored. And then people think the whole thing's fake. I mean, we take HD video we shoot if we have time, and we'll mess with the color and stuff to make it more clear. Well, people can then go in and see that that filter is over our video and say, oh, it must be green screened or something, when we've never faked anything unless it's openly a joke. We've done some joke videos. And I've quit doing a lot of those because people then conflate it with our real videos. But who knows? I mean, why do you think it's fake?
Well, like you said, the quality of it looked script. They didn't show the whole process. I mean, did this guy even exist? Well,
that's the main video that they put out on the web. They've been censoring the sites that have the full thing. I've watched the full thing, and there's squealing and blood spraying, and I've seen a lot of these beheadings. Obviously everybody has if you cover the news. I've seen them chop little kids' heads off. Of course, they don't put that on the news, but I've seen it. And I've also seen Iraqi children bombed by our bombs with their lower mandibles blown off, with the tongue wagging, and literally become violently angry for 2 or 3 days. I mean, I don't mean I'm actually violent, but in fact, a few times I've been up here totally exhausted at like midnight working on a film or something, and see some video like that. I'm not exhausted anymore. It's just war, period. It is just so evil. And now we have a government that pushes it preemptively and funds al-Qaeda and then uses al-Qaeda as the pretext to invade the Middle East again. It is just a very wicked policy. Anything else, Tony?
No, that was it. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. Yeah, Watson was on for 30 minutes Monday, if you missed it, and covered the London Telegraph and others reported on that. Days after Watson said it was fake. I'll tell you what else is fake. Adam Gadon, the former, the grandson of the former head of the ADL, who was arrested repeatedly beating up Muslims outside mosques. He hated them so much. He then decided to join al-Qaeda and become their #2 commander worldwide. That's how fake al-Qaeda is. They have real jihadis under them, but they're literally Western government run. Jerusalem Post headline, Israel created fake al-Qaeda groups. And then every time Israel didn't want a peace deal, they'd blow something up. I'm not even demonizing Israel. All these major governments do it. The average Israeli's not involved. There are real terrorists Israel's fighting. But governments do this. That's in the Jerusalem Post. That's in UPI. That's in Haaretz. Israel created fake al-Qaeda group. Staged bombings. That's the exact headline. That's a UPI headline I just gave you from 2003. Look it up. Now, what am I getting at here? Governments, period, are manipulated by the globalists in a standard corporate worldwide fascist plan. Oligarchical, how do you pronounce it? Oligarchical. I've been having trouble with that word. Oligarchical collectivism, where they're oligarchs and royal and palaces with jet copters and unlimited wealth, but you're a communist or a socialist living in a slave pit. And they dance around calling it liberal all day. That's the plan. And the public's so dumbed down in the slave pit in cardboard boxes, they just know the helicopters fly over and dump food out once a month. So they're like, I love Obama. That's why they want the third world collapsing into us. It's a total plan. It's working beautifully. Are we smart enough to realize the plan and do something about it? Jay in Texas. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Alex. I've been listening to you for about 6 years. I am in law enforcement. Don't really want to get into what branch. I think a lot of what's going on here and a lot of, I guess, in total, what's happening to our country and around the world basically is going to continue until somehow somebody comes up with some type of communication device that can't be tracked by the same people listening to the conversation right here and right now. With all the things that are taking place here, it's very hard to fight tyranny when you can't communicate freely without someone else listening to everything you do or watch everything.
That's right. The globalists at the top that are less than 1% of the government and the corporations, nevertheless in control, have a panopticonic total surveillance view. The way to beat that is either a separate communication system, but then they would discover that and track it. The way to beat it is a swarm effect where everybody starts doing little things every day. Everybody starts telling the truth. Everybody starts making a stand, and then everybody steps forward. It's kind of like the movie scene we've all seen that's based on a lot of true things. They draw the line in the sand, and they say, who's going to step forward? And one guy finally steps forward, and then 2, and then 5, and then 10. And then suddenly everybody steps across. That's what the system is afraid of. And that's what's been holding back their New World Order is good people in federal and state and local government. That's why the globalists want to go to pure corporate government where they are just completely above the law. That's why they want to go to paramilitary police wearing masks so they can bring in mercenaries like was done up in Missouri. Go ahead. Other points about what you see happening in the world.
Well, I just think people need to understand that people in law enforcement are very aware of what's taking place in this country. We have lemmings in our profession like everybody else. But for the most part, people are very awake to what's happening here. It's kind of hard not to see it after IRS and NSA and everything else has been uncovered that was conspiracy even 3 years ago. But there are a lot of good people out here. They're awake. They know what's going on. And we took an oath. I mean, it's that simple. And there's many of us that are not going to go away from that oath. And it really doesn't matter what happens. We're not going to go away from the oath we took, period. So I just want people to understand that there are good people in law enforcement.
I know that, the vast majority. And then that's why, as I've got more sophisticated the last 10 years, I've stated that because in my experience, I figured out the media is showing all the bad examples on purpose so that, and they are egregious, so they can create that separation. God bless you, and I appreciate your call. I'm going to tell the police something, and I know you're smart, you understand this, especially if you're not a greenhorn. Do you think if Homeland Security under the globalist, under Obama, says veterans are the #1 terror threat, who do you think they're not putting on that list? Who's just like the veterans? In fact, who is mainly veterans? Imagine the Jeopardy music's playing in the background. Do 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 dun 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 dun. Cops. They're afraid of anybody that's masculine or anybody that's willing to engage, anybody who's not a coward, Anybody who's not naive. Anybody that's red-blooded. That's why they want the general public domesticated. They only want to use the warrior class long enough to take over, and they're going to replace everybody with combat robots, which is now happening. So that's it. This is the main fight for humanity happening right now, and it's real. I bet you were listening 6 years ago, buddy, and thought I was nuts. Not too nuts now. You'll hear stuff on this show that sounds completely nuts, and I do deliver it kind of in a crazy way sometimes because I'm freaked out about all this. I cover stuff too much. I work too much. I've been doing this 19 years, and quite frankly, it's gotten to me. So I've gotten kind of cynical and nasty about it all. But I'm not cynical in my heart. I will act cynical on air, and I've kind of psychoanalyzed it. It's because it hurts me. And only having gallows humor makes me feel better. Because I get mad about the evil. I get upset about the attempt to corrupt our civilization by design to make us weak. And then I read all these globalist documents that we've covered on air where they admit they're trying to make us dumb down and weak. Society has enough problems without trying to screw everybody over. And we're converting to a civilization based on fraud, not based on productivity. Sciences of scams, sciences of deception. That's the point we've gotten to. And nobody's perfect. Also, the public has had it easy so long comparatively, where our ancestors would starve to death if they made mistakes, that statistics, I'm going to cover this later, do show we're getting dumber. Just like the movie Idiocracy with a guy who's got 185 IQ, Mike Judge. That guy's a rocket scientist. He designed a lot of the F-18. He also wrote that movie about people were getting stupider and stupider. And that's basically what's happened now. And then that kind of goes towards the globalist statement that, well, see, the public's dumbed down, get rid of them. But you're trying to dumb them down even more. You're not trying to reverse any of it. And the answer is, well, that wouldn't help them anyways. Okay, well, here's the deal. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want fluoride in my water. The Harvard study says it gives me brain damage, gives me cancer. I don't want your forced medication. I'm free. I don't want open borders. I don't want to pay for all the illegals. Leave me alone. I don't want my kids forcibly inoculated. Well, why? Well, because governments have a history of secret testing and putting stuff in them, and there's a lot of evidence that vaccines are giving people autism and brain damage, and the inserts say that. So I don't trust you, and here's why. We're going to go to Jim in Florida, and Matthew and Michael and Bob and Phil and others. Clive and Bunny's going to pop in with an update here in a moment. Please don't forget, this hour is brought to you by mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. Super high quality, non-GMO storable foods. Just wonderful customer service, 866-229-0927. Tell them Alex Jones sent you, and they'll tell you about the day's specials or month specials. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. Food independence has never been more important than these unstable times. And if we right the ship and it's not needed, great. But government and corporations are digging in like we're about to go to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Who runs Thunderdome? Master Blaster runs Thunderdome. Who runs the world? Goldman Sachs runs the world. And by calling them out, it's the beginning of the end of their banking dictatorship. Bunch of narcotics, money laundering, New World Order, stock market fixing, globalist trash. I see them. I know what they've done, and I'm not their slave, and I'm declaring it. That's the beginning of the end of the New World Order. When you recognize it, 2 + 2 = 4. I don't care what Obama says, and I know tyranny when I see it, and I'm not going along with it. I'm angry. I'm alive. I'm awake. You want to call that weird? You're the weirdos that want to go along with it. Jim in Florida, thanks for calling. You're on the air.
Hi, Alex. I have a suggested mission that I'd like to propose to you.
Okay.
And that would be to call John McAfee to see if he'd volunteer to retrieve the missing IRS emails, which are, quote, too onerous a task, unquote, for the IRS programmers. I mean, after all...
By the way, we know their systems were on cloud backups by law. They have to keep the records for 10 years. We have to keep them for 7. We all know where it's at and the corporation. They're just stonewalling Congress. But yeah, McAfee should come out and point out how it's a fraud because he's well known. Let's get him on. That's a good idea. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing, Alex, is the last time he was on, he volunteered for free to fix Obamacare, that website, that horrible debacle of a website, and that would be an enormous task. I mean, this thing would be a piece of cake for McAfee to take care of, to find those emails. And if he came on air and publicly and said, "Look, I'll find them for you for nothing."
That's a genius idea. Bottom line, it'd be a great stunt to point out that they're hidden in plain view. Well, in fact, we should do a report, because I've read all the articles. It's admitted in the news. They know right where it's all at. They're destroying BlackBerries there's copies of, the hard drives. Sorry, guys, it's on an email server. The email's not kept on the hard drive. It's on a government-contracted email server. Coming up, Governor Jerry Brown announces collapse of California and ultimately the U.S. into the North American Union. He says it's our job to pay for anybody that can get here as long as they vote to confiscate the firearms. The Department of Transportation is proposing federal law mandating cars broadcast location, direction, and speed at all times to ticket you and track you and fine you and fee you. This is beyond NSA spying, just in your face. That's CNS News. Also, New York risk return to bad old days as crime explodes, even though they've got a police state in place. VA training guide compares veterans to Oscar the Grouch. That's up on Infowars.com. Also, a new satanic mass is coming to a city near you. IMF chief has been indicted. We'll also get into some very important news dealing with the IRS targeting of political groups. All that and more is coming up today. A lot of breaking news at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. The Council on Foreign Relations says U.S. Need not recognize Syrian sovereignty in ISIS attacks. So Al-Qaeda's been attacking the Syrian government. Our government's been funding them. Now they claim they want to bomb inside Syria so they can go after ISIS that they helped create. Amazing. So that's some of the news up on Infowars.com. FEMA building pricey domes. You know, that's a good article, but it should be FEMA building emergency management centers or emergency reestablishment centers, as they call them, for collapse. I mean, that's what this is. FEMA building pricey domes for your safety, close quote, for you to basically permanently live in. They collapse everything, and then you go live in the government plastic dome. Doesn't it sound wonderful? Sounds like the Zeitgeist movie. The government devalues the money, destroys the country, and we all go to re-education camps like the great leap forward of the Cultural Revolution under Mao Zedong.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. And now you can protect yourself from corrupt cops with the InfoWars dash cam. It's your car's black box that records all that the driver sees and hears. And introducing the Block It Pocket. It renders your phone undetectable while protecting your private data and your health. Or take back your privacy and protect your personal information by getting your very own Detractor cell phone pouch. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.